Good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. Let's pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have the agenda before you? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the agenda with the removal of the Roanoke Shawan Community College budget request. Just feel like until we get all the budget work sessions and things that, just removal of the Roanoke Shawan Community College budget request.
Could we move that to between items 6 and 7 to discuss it officially, but I do agree it should come out of the
consent agenda. Yes, sir. Agreed to that, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
Do we have a second of that motion?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I, Broadnax Taylor.
Aye. Motion is carried. Okay, conflict of interest statements. Would you read those for us, Vice Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the rules and procedures adopted by this board in section 153A-44 of the North Carolina General Statutes, it is the duty of every member present to vote on all matters coming before this board, unless there is a conflict of interest as determined by the board or by law. Does any board member have a conflict of interest with respect to any agenda item coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and the board will consider the matter. No conflict, Mr. Chairman.
No conflict.
No conflict.
No conflict, Broadnax Taylor.
No conflict. Okay, the consent agenda. You see the items on it. We removed the Roanoke Shawan budget proposal. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair Martin, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I, Broadnax Taylor.
Aye. Okay, motion is carried. Proceed on to the citizens' comments.
Citizens, when you're recognized, please approach the podium. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes maximum. The chair will cut off all speakers exceeding their allotted time. If you have any questions of the board, you will receive a response from the board or county staff. The board will not respond or otherwise engage in a dialogue with you during your allotted time. Pursuant to North Carolina law, this time is allotted on the agenda for the purpose of allowing public commentary on county business. This is not an open forum to be publicly critical of the performance of any county commissioner or county employee, and the chair will maintain the order and decorum of the meeting. Commissioners, I have two citizens who've signed up, the first being Reverend Sharon Boyce.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Various counties that I've worked with, I've worked out of county, so you haven't seen me a whole lot. But I am happy to be here this evening, More of a, to let you know what you're doing and how you're doing. And I know that because of the reports that come from the various newspapers. So I'm wanting to encourage you in what you do for the county, and also because I am a taxpayer, and we see these things and we want to make sure that our monies are being spent correctly. I have looked in the paper, which is the Roanoke Daily News, and I am glad that you all are paying attention to how our monies are spent. And one particular article that came out in the Roanoke Herald, let me see if I have the date here. It is in the early part of this month, but it was about you all taking your time to look over those requests for monies from, I guess I call it the satellite, that's at the Northampton County East, that Roanoke Community College rents, or however they do that. I'm not familiar, but I know it is a satellite program, education program. Is that correct? But anyway, I'm just thankful that you all are paying attention. Dr. Kedra Whitaker, I thank you that your statement in the paper about we need to have time to look at this, pay attention to how we are spending our monies.
Yes, ma'am.
So we thank you so much that you are here and you're fighting for proper use of our monies, because it is no joke. The monies that I have paid over 43 years nursing. I'm a nurse. I've worked through all the counties, Hertford County, Northampton County. I've worked in Halifax County. So, you know, we see the monies that are taken out of our funds, and we want to make sure that they are being used properly. Okay. So I want to commend you for that, that you all are taking time and paying attention to our monies. Okay. The other thing was, I read the paper, and I can't remember the exact date, but there was some audits that were done related to the commissioners. And I know you all keep up with the funds and whatnot, but there was an audit done where monies were possibly, I'm not saying misappropriated, but you have not figured out where they are. So we want to make sure that those monies are appropriated correctly and an account is made on the monies. Because a lot of monies do come through your hands. You make a lot of decisions on how monies are spent. How many minutes do I have?
Minute 35.
Okay, so I'm just saying to you that people are paying attention.
Yes, ma'am.
We are reading the papers, and we want our monies to be spent correctly. I'm taking care of many patients. We have a lot of monies, a lot of waste, a lot of needs that we need. Mental health. Oh, healthcare is just tremendous. And we want to make sure that every dollar is accounted for. And that we are looking into even mental health facilities for this area, because our areas are in deep need of some mental health, and we don't want to throw money, bad money. So just let you know that we are paying attention, and we want the monies to be spent correctly. And I believe they are all of my comments. It is very nice to see each of you. I've seen some of you before. No Kedra from a long time ago. No Miss Broadnax. But my name is Reverend Sharon Boyce, and I do pay attention to the way my monies are spent.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you for your comments. And I would like to make one comment. I think sometimes people forget we pay taxes too. And so we try to look after it as best we can. Thank you.
Gary Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Don't know if that's going to cooperate with me or not. But anyway, seemingly 100 years ago, I graduated with a degree in political science and concentrated studies in history and economics, which qualified me to do, well, nothing, except perhaps to dabble in politics and government, which is what I've done. Through those years, I've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of county commissioners, one-on-one and jointly, in meetings, workshops, conferences, retreats, often along with others from a university, the Institute of Government, or the School of Government, rather, County Commissioners Association, and other organizations. And along the way, I'll pick up some stuff. Among that is that the work of county commissioners is very demanding and all too often thankless. So thank you for the job you've done and are doing. Second, the work of commissioners, that one-on-one interaction with citizens, neighbors, is, or done well can be, democracy at its best. And very importantly, commissioners hold positions of great public trust and are legally and ethically responsible for fulfilling the provisions of the state's two fundamental public trust laws, the North Carolina Open Meetings Law and the North Carolina Public Records Act. Most often, people, commissioners and staff, get tripped up, not to say that you have, on the part of the Open Meetings Law regarding closed sessions. The general statutes list 9 permitted closed session purposes, 3 of which are most commonly cited. And in the interest of time, I'll speak to just 2 of those. Of those permitted uses, the 4th listed in the general statutes is commonly broadly referred to as economic development. In a nutshell, the statute restricts discussion to the location, relocation, or expansion of specific industries or businesses in the area, and potentially a discussion of incentives related to same. In a closed session for economic development, a Board of Commissioners cannot generally discuss things like a chamber meeting, sales tax revenues, pending layoffs at a manufacturing plant, recreation utility projects not directly tied to an industrial or business project, airports, building permits, marketing plans, and the list goes on. The rule of thumb is that the discussion must involve at least one specific company with a name, and the conversation has to be site-specific. And the conversation is to be limited to that company and any potential incentives related to a potential deal. What is commonly referred to as personnel is the 6th permitted closed session purpose. That one is more easily understood. The provision allows for the discussion of employees and candidates for employment, just as long as that someone has a name. But a broad discussion about positions, vacant or otherwise, or general personnel policy issues, or a member of the Board of Commissioners is off limits. In case any are wondering, my comments are grounded in the works of individuals with the School of Government and the Attorney General of North Carolina. Copies are included in the materials I have for distribution, and I ask that you please note the highlighted text. Thank you for your consideration, and again, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your comments. We have any-
Those are all the comments I have, Commissioners.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is appointing, oh, no, we slipped the other one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The Roanoke Chowan, as Vice Chairman stated, until we have at least a draft of the budget to see what we've got to work with, I don't feel that we can actually make an appropriation to either Roanoke Chowan or Halifax Community College. There is one issue, though, that Roanoke Chowan had asked, could we provide any help with a shortfall that they are going to encounter this school year or fiscal year right around March or April due to some increased costs they incurred during the year to try to get closer to what our percentage would have been if we were meeting our percentage goals. So that's the one item we do need to discuss tonight. Do we feel we can help them any in this year's budget? We do have some contingency money we could draw from. I've spoken to the county manager about it, potentially up to $50,000 if we choose to do so. So that's what we're here to discuss with that item. Do we wish to do any further help with this year? Open to discussion with, from any of you guys.
Chairman, I have a question. I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Roanoke Chowan is experiencing a shortfall. They're not able to wait until we come to a decision on how much we can give them. But right now, they need some money based on a shortfall of what?
Total dollars, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall the total? 85,000?
And they're not able to wait until we come together as a board and look at the budget. They need their money right now.
Yes, ma'am. They're going to have a shortfall and will have exhausted their funds before the year ends if they don't get some relief. They're asking, not only us, they're appealing to Hertford and Bertie also, but they're just asking for help from any of the counties that have students that attend Roanoke Chowan.
So my question is, do we support Halifax community also?
Yes.
So don't we need to be equally, if one's in trouble, I'm sure the other one could be in trouble too.
They have not said so at this point, and I actually serve on that board, and they're doing okay. Obviously, they've got a request for us for next year, as they always do, but they have not requested that they need any additional help to complete this year.
So is that part of next year's, the amount that we normally give? Will that be a part of what we
No,
will give next?
this would be a separate, they're asking for some additional help with this year and still would like us to consider next year, if we can, our contribution percentage of budget match our percentage of the student body. We have not been doing that in the past.
What is happening throughout the state of North Carolina is, for whatever reason, there is a hold or money's going to the community colleges right now. And what is going to happen is we're going to have more colleges coming before us asking for financial help because the General Assembly will not release the budget for them until November. So this is something that I want to be real cognitive of because they are going to come to us for help. But in helping us, I don't want us to drown. In helping them, I mean, it goes back to what we're able to do at this point. I
Mr.
want,
Chairman,
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry.
go on,
Yeah,
go on.
Mr. Chairman, if I remember correctly, when the president stood before us in Northampton County, we make up about, 278 unduplicated students at at Roanoke Shawan. And when you look at a percentage, I think she broke down Hertford, Bertie, and Northampton. And Northampton, we were only given, 8%?
Right. I believe we're 14% of the student population, but we're only given 8% of the funding.
Right.
And that's what she was appealing for, if we could make up any of that difference from this current year.
Yeah, for a shortfall of $85,865.
And I believe their total shortfall in the budget is more than that. That's what was our shortfall in contribution.
Yes, sir.
But I want to say their shortfall in the budget was well over 100. It might have been a couple of hundred. It's been a while since county manager and I went and met with their board
Oh, yes, sir.
to discuss this a few weeks ago. But I just thought I'd throw that out. They're needing some help because they are gonna start running out of money somewhere between the end of this month or end of April, somewhere between the end of March, end of April.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't remember, but was there a certain specific, I know she asked about percentage, and I heard you mention like 50K. But when you look at where we are, I think between the three counties, was it like 1.4 million?
Total, you mean?
Total, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Yeah, but, and like I say, she was asking us, could we pony up the 85,000, which would be our percentage? We don't have that much available, but if we would like to help them with what we can, you know, that's what I'm putting before you tonight.
And this is what she discussed in the meeting with you the other day, needing these funds.
Yes. That night when she presented before the full board, she doesn't get into all the details of, you know, of the dire straits they were in. She just kind of was asking, could we match the percentage of the student body with our contribution? But they are actually gonna have a shortfall and not have enough budget to make it through the year. And I believe us and Bertie were the ones that were the most, you know, I think they were getting their full share from Hertford. But Northampton and Bertie were not providing a share equal to their student body population.
I wish she would have been totally transparent in telling us that they were in such dire straits when she came in front of us asking us for help. Now, if you're gonna ask us for help, and you need help, ask us for help, but then you're gonna come back and it's a different thing? No, you need help, ask us, you standing in front of us, ask us for help. We in bad shape, help us. But now, I'm not, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'll work on it.
And Mr. Chairman, when you spoke with the president and the board, so we say 50K now, would that be sufficient? I mean, and I know you've met with the county
I'm
manager.
not sure what
Okay,
other people may be willing to provide. They were also gonna go back to Hertford, even though they had met their percentages. Their students primarily come from Hertford, Northampton, and Bertie.
right.
And so that's the only counties they were going to for funding. And without knowing what other people may kick in, I don't know where they stand at this time. But when we met with them, they were quite a bit short, and we're asking, could we match our contribution with our percent of the student body, which I don't see how we can do that. It's just a matter of, are we willing to give any help, and if so, how much?
And to Commissioner Edwards' point, you know, we have a early college on the campus of HCC, Halifax Community College. And definitely, I mean, the statistics that the president gave us were great statistics about our students, great statistics. And I think one of the young men featured in the presentation was from Northampton.
From the Ronald Chawn president?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
from the Ronald
that's
Shawan
correct.
presentation. You know, and to your point, Commissioner Ron Extella, you know, it's some tough times right now for education across the board. And when you look at our students being met, and so, Mr. Chairman, I'm just, were you looking for us to, after this discussion, have a form of a motion tonight?
If so, I would like that if we can.
And I think the only thing that I would add is to what's been said similar is that whatever we do, we have to be looking to do that for others that may experience a shortfall, because any decision you do, you're setting a precedence. And so definitely looking at, you know, where our students are being serviced at as well. And it would have been good to get all the information on the forefront, so we would have known what we were really needing to do to help them, instead of like finding out now, because I was kind of taken aback when I hearing the process and information that you shared about the shortfall that they're experiencing, because we didn't know that it was, you know, such a huge sense of urgency, and it sounds like it is. But I just want us to, you know, make fiscally sound decisions, so that we don't put ourselves in a strain, and so that we're not giving equity across the board to others that may need the same, so.
And I don't think we would have any kind of moral obligation to help anybody other than Halifax or Roanoke Chowan. They're the only, not to say there might not be a student, a single isolated student that goes somewhere else, but they're the two that service our area. Most of the western half goes to Halifax, the eastern half goes to Roanoke Chowan. So I don't think we have any risk other than if potentially Halifax came back for something, but there's been no discussion as of the last meeting I went to. They meet every other month. January meeting, there was no discussion of any potential shortfall. We meet again next week. Yeah, trying to get my dates right in my head. Yeah, we meet again next week. So I don't know what they may come up with there.
All right, because the thing of it is, we don't know what funding sources, you know, may get paused or whatever the case is. So that's what my point, my concern is, so.
The last email I had from Miss Elliott, she kind of been giving us updates, because you see all this stuff on the news, they're cutting this, they're cutting that. So far, they've been getting what they were expecting. And isn't that what you've seen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I guess one of the questions is, what are we able to do,
Yeah.
if anything?
Well, anything up to 50,000.
I feel comfortable with the 50,000. That's why I threw that number out there from our contingency funds. We can absorb that and not, you know,
Cause us
feel
any
any
problem.
strain, put it that way.
If you would like to put this off to next meeting, I think we could do that, but I don't think we can put it off much longer. We need to let them know, one way or the other, if we can give them some help. What is the next meeting date?
For
I
us?
would definitely appreciate that.
The 7th?
That was it. Yes, sir.
We get a lot of feedback from the public, so I think I'd make a motion, we postpone it till next meeting so we can talk
Okay.
to
All right.
people. We're interested in education. We need to educate our children, but we gotta make sure our budget can handle, plus what somebody else Halifax may come up next week and do the same thing. So we gotta be aware. If he's gonna have a meeting, let's just see if
Yeah,
maybe they'll be okay, and then we could use our funds to help,
Yeah.
you know.
We meet the 25th, so I should know at that meeting if they're having any issues. Do we have a second to Commissioner?
And you're right, Commissioner Edwards, and when you look at, we got a school system right here in Northampton County, that has many needs.
Well, I mean, we've
When
got to
we
be
look-
ready to service
Yeah,
the
right,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
public.
Yeah, right,
everybody.
across the board, and building a new high school, and all of those things comes into consideration, and definitely, help, if assistance is needed, we're here for that. I appreciate your comments. I second, was that motion second? For Commissioner? Oh, Dr. Whitaker.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 I, Brian X. Taylor.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion is carried. We'll put this off till the next meeting. And that is one thing that we do have, that's been brought up at many meetings, that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the public. Well, a normal fiduciary responsibility is like if I'm your money manager, I have a fiduciary responsibility to you to manage your money in your best interest, not mine. The difference is with the county, your best interest is different than your best interest, which is different than your best interest. And so we got to try to balance
That's right.
the needs of everyone and everyone's best interest, and still keep our budget at a manageable level so that we aren't raising taxes. And so it is a difficult, responsibility, and we do take it seriously. But there's always gonna be somebody that says, I wish you wouldn't have done that, or I wish you would have done this. But we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to be responsible with the money. All right. Let's move on to the next item, is appointing commissioners to the selective boards. I sent y'all all a list of what positions were vacated by the outgoing commissioners, and everyone has said they were okay with what we have discussed here. Do we have a motion to accept this? All the ones that are already on their assignments would stay. We just got to, appoint these new assignments. Do we have a motion to accept this list of assignments as I sent out to you earlier?
Mr. Chairman, I move for acceptance of the board committee's reports as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I, Brian X. Taylor.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the next item is Northampton County Schools.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Chair. Thank you for having us here tonight to present to you our 2025-26 funding request. You have before you a PowerPoint presentation. I believe it's in the PowerPoint presentation. We like to, before we go into the budget development process, do a very careful and thorough reflective look at where we have been, what we've accomplished, and what still needs to be accomplished. I presented to you in this PowerPoint presentation some of our points of pride. I won't go over all of them. Next slide, please. I won't go over all of them. I will highlight two of those, or just a few of those. Staff successes that we've seen in our school district. We have Coach of the Year. We have both Coach Ramsey and Coach Kimberly Butler were selected as Coach of the Year. We have changes in our student performance headed in the right direction. And those changes were able to garner us a status of moving out of being considered a low-performing school district. And that's the first time we've moved out of that position in over 10 years. One of the other points of pride that we have is for the 2024 audit, we had a clean audit. And that is an accomplishment we intend to continue to repeat. We also gave you our school performance report card. You can see that we are headed in the right direction. We have Central Elementary School is now a C school. Our early college is a B school, and we have no F schools in Northampton County. And we're very proud of that accomplishment. I have with me here tonight Dr. Juanisha Mann Wilkins, who is our interim finance director. She's sitting here. And I also have with us at contracted services from Team Services, Mr. Jeremy Teeter. Mr. Teeter has been on board with us for the past 3 years in various forms of employment, either contracted services or full-time services for us, and he is going to help me present the budget. So the budgetary data, we'll start with that, and Mr. Teeter.
So in the spirit of transparency, we always like to, on the next slide, we always like to share where the district's funding sources are coming from. And like most school systems in North Carolina, Northampton County Schools is very dependent upon state resources in order to make things happen. But they are extremely grateful for the local dollars that you do provide, and it helps them to do some very critical items for the district. And we'll touch on a couple of those just on the next slide. They are able to, with those local dollars, support things like local teacher supplements, right? So we're definitely in an arms race for teachers in North Carolina. So you can see the predominant share of their expenditures happen with salaries and benefits. So definitely trying to stay laser focused on keeping the best possible talent in the school system. And thanks to your investment also, right, able to keep a very sharp focus on capital outlay. And I'll just share in my work as a consultant, I've been in and out of 27 different school systems in North Carolina providing support. And I've never quite seen this level of commitment to keeping good facilities. So we definitely kudos to you and your support to the school system in those efforts. It's really remarkable. So budgetary considerations, I know this is the most important part, and we've got limited time, but the state has just begun its 2-year budget development process. This is my least favorite year because we're at the beginning of that 2-year cycle. It's a little bit of a crystal ball. The governor, the new governor has not released his proposed budget just yet, and certainly the General Assembly will react to that. And we see different periods of time when that finalizes. Some years they never get it done, and we revert to the previous budget, and so we have to make some sort of a best guesstimate for how things might land. So for these particular figures for Northampton County, the salary and benefit component to this, they are estimating a 3% increase in wages that will come down from the state level. So that was the lowest of the 2 years. And that's in line with the most recent changes that we saw for the year that we're in now in order to arrive at these figures. There's also a slight increase in what we're required to put into the retirement system on behalf of those employees. That usually has a steady increase. And then for health insurance, that's a space where we're seeing those increases grow quite a bit. And so anticipating about $600 more per year per employee, as we've seen for the past few years. And we know that the new state treasurer's got a really keen focus on the solvency of the state health plan. And so we're not expecting that to slow down. So just other items, sort of business as usual, expecting utilities to increase throughout the state. Insurance, particularly property insurance, is a challenge everywhere, especially with the weather events that we've had in North Carolina recently. We are expecting that property insurance will increase, and the Department of Insurance has also negotiated an increase with the carriers in North Carolina, so we know that that's going to be something that is a huge consideration. Also expecting an increase in the auto insurance premiums that we have to pay for the district's fleet. And so just sort of the subtotal of those activities is a little over $246,000. It's important to keep in mind too that anytime the county commissioners give the school systems new money, required to pass that along to the students that are enrolled in charter schools. And so a little over $105,000 we would be required to pass along to the charters. So we try to net that up to make sure that the district gets what it needs while also honoring that statutory obligation to the charter schools. So you'd be looking at a little over $351,000 that the superintendent is seeking just to maintain current operations in the school system without any changes. All right, so on the next slide, we're looking at just one expansion item. And so the superintendent is always laser focused on what can she do to improve student outcomes in the district. And so focused on anything that we can do to keep students in school and make sure that they're not dropping out. And so looking to add 2 positions in the district with a laser focus on attendance and trying to focus on keeping that dropout rate at a minimum. And so I think we're convinced that if we can keep the students in school, we're able to meet their needs and get them where they need to be. So, so again, a little over $100,000 there to make those 2 positions happen for the school system. We would have to share with charters if they were to get additional money there as well. So that would be an increase of a little over 144 for expansion items. So I think in working with the school system on their budget, I can tell you they really did try to keep their new needs at a minimum. So they really thought intentionally about this, and they narrowed this down to their top priority if they were to do anything new next school year. So just wanted to let you know that they were very intentional about keeping that list at a minimum. All right, and so on the next slide, we just sort of summarize the sum of those 2 items as far as the continuation and the expansion. And so that would be just a little bit shy of 500,000. It's 496,274 would be for them to continue. Plus, if you were able to make things happen for their expansion request of those 2 positions to support student attendance. On the next slide, we'll highlight this is the 3rd year in a row that I'm aware of that the school system has continued to look within to be as efficient as possible with what you have given them. And so they are looking at the possibility to realign some things. There are some commitments they made that are now lapsing. And so there is $92,976 in some savings that they'll be able to rearrange for the next school year in order to make things work for the district. So I will give them so much credit that they have navigated ESSER and the ESSER funds going away so much better than a lot of school systems have in North Carolina. And so they have not quite had the ESSER crisis like you're seeing in the news in a lot of places. And so they're continuing to keep that laser focus down the street there at the school system. So just transparency's sake, just showing that they're continuing to see what they can do to be efficient before necessarily expecting additional money. So on the next slide is just it's just a summary, and this is a work paper that we kind of take them through every year. And that first line item on that work paper is just sort of the starting point of how much money did we budget from their fund balance for the current year, plus what some of the new needs were going to be as far as continuation. We've built in their ask or proposed new revenue to the county of the 496,274, noted how much they would have to pass on to charters. The 92,976 is what they've been able to find sort of with realigning their own resources. And so moving into next school year, even if they were to get some resources from the county, they would need to budget fund balance once again. And so we're grateful. We always budget that. We always hope that they won't have to use the full amount. They do have scenarios where they'll have turnover in positions and they don't necessarily need to use the full dollars, but really been working hard to get Northampton County in a spot where they're budgeting for everything that they have and they're accounting for those items. So just wanted to lift up that full picture for you, even if you are able to honor their full continuation request. And this is just sort of a historical trend of where funding has gone. And we know we had a couple of years where their county appropriation did not increase, and that was manageable because that was occurring during the ESSER years where the school system had a record federal investment during the pandemic and shortly after the pandemic. And the county was able to make an increase last year. And I know the school system was grateful for that slight increase that they received last school year. So just also grateful for that $453,000 that you provide just in their regular capital outlay. So looking forward to that continued partnership. And I don't know if we're going to answer questions at this time, but we're certainly available to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. And you can stay. And we will answer any questions that you might have.
Any board members have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all so much for this thorough presentation. And Dr. Atkins, I wanted to ask a question. As you look up, when I see the word appropriation history, I did want to ask the question, the supplement that our wonderful educators receive in Northampton County, when was the last time that that was changed? Is that percentage still, what, 4%? 3%.
Yes, Dr. Edwards, that's 3% for most of our employees.
That is correct.
Yes,
And
sir.
so has it been at 3%? I know it's been there a long time.
As long as I've been involved.
Okay.
All of my tenure, it has been, this is my third year.
And so in an effort, as we look in the budget, you know, as we look around, what would it take to get that to 5%? Is something that I would like to see. Because when you look across the board, you can lose people to the neighboring county. We right here in local government are losing nurses. We got 4 vacancies right now, as reported by the by the health department. So if someone is gonna jump across the river or go to another county, is there something in the budget and just a snapshot of what the other counties around us are giving as a supplement?
Dr. Edwards, your example of nurses is a great one. We posted a nursing position this week.
Okay.
So yes, we will go back and take a look at what it would take to increase that supplement from the 3% to the 5% and bring that back to you.
Yeah, just as a rule of 4 or 5%?
Yes, sir.
Because it's been that way a long time,
It has been.
okay?
Dr. Atkins, I have a question. Commissioner Edwards was right on target with supplement. I'd like to know, does this include your custodial workers, your cafeteria workers, your bus drivers, and other support staff? Do they get anything when it comes to supplement within Northampton County? Do we give them any type of bonuses or any type of, any kind of monetary incentives as well? Because they are the ones that go unnoticed. Your bus drivers, your cafeteria folk, cafeteria, your custodians, and your bus drivers. And I just want to know, what do we do in Northampton County for those people?
And that's an important point. During holiday season, we do give a bonus, a one-time bonus to all of our employees.
And that's
who
just
are
at Christmas.
least Full-time, or 50% or full-time FTE. The supplement goes to our certified employees.
I would like to, in another world, I'd like to see them get more. And I'd like to see them get some additional monies as well.
I would totally agree with you. I would love to raise their salaries.
Dr. Atkins, I applaud you and your team, this thing called chronic absenteeism. It is critical. Ever since COVID, where are the babies? And how do we keep them in school? So liaisons, definitely a component that's a needed piece when it comes to the component of where are the children, so that we can say, hey, how can we get you back in school, attending school, not missing 10% of the 180 days?
Dr. Edwards, for every student that we bring back in the school, that's a student that's not wandering around during the school
Absolutely.
day. When we educate our students well, we set them up for a productive future.
Correct.
And that's what we want to create in our community, citizens who are productive, contributing to our community.
Absolutely. Thank you. No more questions from me, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else?
Only got a comment. That's just want to commend Dr. Axon and her team again for your presentation. Definitely spot on with what Dr. Edwards and Commissioner Barton-Ax Taylor with the teacher retention. We know that's huge. If we can definitely increase that, you know, that supplement, that would be awesome. I know I started my career back in 2006, and I don't think the supplement has increased that much since that time. And so as much as we can do to increase it, I think that would be a wonderful thing. Also, our classified staff are also the heartbeat of our buildings, and so they all play a vital role. So even if, as Dr. Ellis was saying, if we can get the teacher supplement up to maybe 4%, and then maybe look at if we can't get up to the 5 for that part, what we can do for the classified staff. But I definitely think if we can give them an extra bump as well, I think that'll be really good and to help make them feel valued, because when you are located where we are in Northampton County, it's very competitive, and as much as we can make our employees feel valued, we definitely want to do that. And also the intentional focus that you placed on absenteeism, we definitely know that if we can keep our kids in schools and put them on that pathway towards graduation, as I've said before, education is definitely that key that can break generational poverty. So again, just appreciate your team and the board and the intentional focus that you all have and for this information.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. And what we will do is go back and evaluate those scenarios and do an amendment to our budget request.
Anybody else? Thank you for your presentation, and we'll,
Thank you.
we'll do what we can to help.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda was establishing a Moses Horton Day. Would you like to discuss that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We certainly want to thank, when the Northampton Memorial Library came before us and gave us a great presentation on George Moses Horton Day. And when you look at the presentation, what a historic moment that we have from a man that came from Northampton County. And so, in talking to citizens and receiving several emails, Mr. Chairman, the book festival is being held on April the 19th from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Northampton County Cultural and Wellness Center. And so, one of the things we wanted to look at this is an annual event, and wanted to look at naming the book festival in honor of Mr. George Moses Horton, having that as George Moses Horton Day, and basically having a resolution on that date, which says that we in Northampton County, since he was a Northamptonian, honor this day along with the book festival, and it's being presented by our wonderful library. And we think that would be a great honor to have this as a day named after George Moses Horton. And that day this year is April the 19th, 2025. And so that is what we're looking at, Mr. Chairman. And I would definitely like to see that happen as an action item as we honor citizens who have done great things here in Northampton County.
Okay, would that be something we would need to draft up officially, County Attorney, to?
So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
And it already has been, a proposed proclamation of this effect has been drafted, but unfortunately is not in your board book tonight.
Okay, all right.
But I will certainly circulate that to everyone.
All right, so we could vote on that next meeting then, if we can get that paperwork, okay? All right. That's what we were planning to do then. We will get the draft of that resolution so that we can present that for an official vote at the next meeting and vote to see if we're going to establish that as a George Moses Horton Day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Next item is Northampton County Cellular Monitoring.
I'm presenting this, Commissioners. Commissioners, before you is a proposed contract with Johnson Controls Fire Protection Company. This is a fire service monitoring contract for the new administration building. The monetary amounts is relatively minor. It's $800 per year and this comes as a little bit of a matter of urgency because this contract needs to be in place before the county can receive its certificate of occupancy for the administration building. And this contract was just presented to us within the past week. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will request that the board allow if it wishes to proceed, allow the county manager to execute this contract, subject to legal edits that are ongoing, minor legal edits. You will see that this contract has quite a bit of boilerplate and fine print language, and given the nature of the timing, I'm currently pushing back on a little bit of this language. But again, it's not a lot of money at issue, so, I would suggest just giving Mr. Phillips the authority to execute this once a little bit of back and forth is finalized. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this, excuse me, is this just for the new facilities?
That's correct. That's my understanding.
Yeah. They were able to get around it to get a temporary certificate of occupancy just to be able to start moving the equipment in. I came with county manager and economic development director, what was it, last Thursday or Friday? We did a walkthrough, and they were able to get a temporary certificate of occupancy, but they can't continue with until we get the permanent one, which this cellular monitoring system needs to be put in for fire protection. Okay, do we have a motion to allow county manager to execute this contract upon any changes instituted by the county attorney?
Do we need to tell the public how much?
I'm sorry, it's an $800 annual fee.
Yeah, $800 for the
And
whole year.
it does contemplate annual renewals, but the contract can be terminated on an annual basis too, if the county's not happy with it.
So we'll be obligating ourselves $800 a year. For 1 year only, it can be terminated.
I also move, because we're gonna have to have fire protection, so
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
make that a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I, Broadnax Taylor.
Okay, motion is carried. Next issue is tax matters. Do we have any additional tax matters tonight? We voted on the last month's, okay. Financial matters.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first item I have for you is a bank resolution. As you all know, I've been here 2 weeks. Today starts my third week. In order to get me added onto the bank accounts for the county, we have to approve this bank resolution for all county accounts. And I have the original documentation here. It does have some private social security numbers on that, so it is not in your packet. And I can give that to the clerk for your signatures. We do need a motion to
Okay.
approve that if
Do-
the board.
You're seeking them, okay.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve the bank resolution?
I move approve.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I, Broadnax Taylor.
Aye. Okay, that motion is carried.
Thank you.
Do you have any other things?
Yes, the next item I have is in response to our audit findings, we are required to draft a letter. And you should have that letter in front of you tonight.
I've mixed my
This
stuff.
letter is a response to the financial performance indicators of concern, and this has to be submitted to the local government commission.
The chair has.
Is this, is that thing I got here? Okay. Y'all not have that?
No, sir.
Okay,
Don't have it.
okay.
I don't have it. Am I looking in the wrong place?
Yeah, we don't need.
I've got it.
I think the chair has it.
Okay, I will, move forward. I will kind of, explain the findings
Okay,
and let the board know and the citizens know where those audit findings directly came from and how we are moving to correct those findings.
okay.
The first finding, finding one, was due to reconciliation of records and reporting. This finding is directly because of the turnover in the finance department, not having a finance director in place and the turnover in the finance director. It did not allow for those reconciliation of bank accounts, bank statements to be done in a timely manner. I have, since I have been here, have met with my staff. Bank reconciliations are current up until December. She is finishing up December of 2024. She was waiting on some documents that, were to be provided by the finance director.
Okay.
Finding two, a budget violation. And I'm referring to the audit, directly as I go through these. Item two, budget violation. This is where, monies were received and a public authority should be included in a budget ordinance. This is directly because budget amendments were not brought before this board and completed in a timely manner before before the fiscal year ended. If these budget amendments were done, this would not be a finding. So the direct cause of that was for projects not properly being budgeted. Finding three is another budget violation. And the cause of that, the county did not properly adopt and record budget amendments for revenues and expenditures for those functions. This again is directly related to budget amendments not being brought before the board in a timely manner. Finding number four is for a negative fund balance for fire district funds and debt service funds. Again, this is because these funds were not budgeted properly and budget amendments were not brought before this board. These findings will go away next year. I am currently reviewing the current budget amendments that have been completed in this fiscal year and reviewing those and making sure that they are where they need to be. So you will see some correcting budget amendments coming before this board in the next couple of meetings to correct any errors. Finding five was a fidelity bond violation. That has already been corrected. Finding six is insufficient budgetary transfers. This is for EDC Capital Reserve Fund. The budget for the transfer was not done in a timely manner. Again, a budget amendment was not brought before this board. Finding number seven, this is related to some grants that we received from the Office of State Budget Management. Because these grants, yes, they came from the state, from the Office of State Budget Management, but they were directly from the federal government. They were passed through the state. So because they are federal funds, we are required to follow uniform guidance. And with that, they have to be included in separate funds. That has also already been corrected. The next item is finding number 12. This finding was directly related to the Department of Public Instruction lottery funds. And I just kind of want to explain this process and how it works. The school system, if they request any lottery funds to be drawn down from the state, the school system requests the funds from DPI, and then they turn around and once they are approved, the county gets notification as well as the school system. And then in order for those funds to be paid to the school system, the county has to verify that what they spent those funds on are actually what they requested those funds for. These processes were not being followed in the past. I will tell you that I have already met with Mr. Matthews with the school board, and I have already received documentation for all lottery funding requests for the current fiscal year to date. and we are working to get those corrected as well. One other item that we are required to bring before the board, it was not a finding, but it was a financial performance indicator of concern, is that the budgeted, and I believe the auditor presented on this, I was not here for that, but I did see the report that they presented. The budgeted ad valorem taxes for the general fund had more than 3% uncollected for the fiscal year. And I have spoken with the county manager, we've discussed it. They budgeted ad valorem taxes at 96%, which is close to our collection rate. And I think what is swaying that percentage is because we are budgeting our motor vehicle tax in that same budget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate out our motor vehicle taxes into a separate department so that that percentage is not varying based off of ad valorem. Motor vehicle taxes are not collected by the county. They are collected by the North Carolina DMV and then turn around and sent to the county. So that finding, that concern will also go away in the next fiscal year. And then one other thing that we have to do is kind of explain how we are planning to move forward so that these findings do not happen again. During the past several years, Northampton County has experienced turnover in the finance department. Specifically, the finance director and the county has experienced difficulty in hiring a qualified individual. The current finance director will oversee training in the finance department so that personnel are cross-trained, and also completing succession planning for the finance director position so that when there are vacancies and people are out, that other roles can fall into that role and so that the finance department stays in good standing. So this is the letter that I will be sending to the local government commission as required. And it just needs, it does not need approval. It just needs to be presented in front of this board, and I need signatures from the board. And I will be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, just comment that I very appreciate you sharing the information and the fact that you're saying that you're gonna be doing some cross-training again. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways is things that we can do, structures we can put in place so that we don't make the same mistakes again. And definitely, we're super happy and fortunate to have you aboard so that we can correct these errors and continue to move forward. But just thank you for that information. I definitely think training is the key so that we don't continue to make those same errors.
Thank you.
I have another question. You've provided some good information, but what I would like to see is what you're saying to us as far as the corrections made, written out so the citizens can understand the corrections that are being made. Because they're watching us. They're watching us to see when these corrections are going to be made.
I understand.
And I would like us, if you could write out everything you said, so I could see it, because I do better with paper. Let's kill a tree. Let's kill 2 or 3 trees. But I do better with paper. Everything you just said, if you could put it in paper to us, that would help me. That would also help our citizens understand, because with what you're saying tonight, it's great to them, because they don't know one issue from another. But if you put it in paper, I think they would understand it better. But you gave us some good information.
Okay, I'll be sure to do that.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for being transparent to these guys, all of our citizens. We need information like this. I do, and I think everybody here appreciates what you're doing. At least giving us an idea of your direction, your corrections, and thank you so much.
And I want to say one of the big things that I definitely want to just say we appreciate the fact that you came in owning this and just sharing what the corrections are. As you were sharing, I was taking notes, and so as we're out and about, we can definitely just give an overview, but definitely like Commissioner Bartek said, if it's just a one-sheeter or something, I know you'll work with Dr. Phillips on that, but I just appreciate you, sharing the information and just talking us through what we're doing to make these corrections and taking it step by step. Because I know you inherited a lot, so
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for what you're doing. I know we've had some issues in the past, and I know you're working to correct those and get us on the right track.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the public hearing for the rezoning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, if I
Before
may
I
interject,
op-
first
We have to,
recess into a public
Okay.
hearing.
we're going to recess into the public hearing, so the public hearing is now called to order.
Okay. Before we open up the floor for citizens' comments, I wanted to give you an overview of this rezoning request. In your package, you'll have a summary. There's a rezoning request for 4973 Highway 258 in Rich Square, parcel number 0601646. It's approximately 1.73 acres and is currently zoned agriculture residential. Not going to go through all of the required setbacks. The current use of the property is an existing religious organization. The applicant is requesting to change the zoning classification from agriculture residential to highway business. Per the applicant, the purpose of the requested change is to allow dual use to include both religious services as well as an adult day program. Details of the proposal can be found in your rezoning application. Our office received this request, and in accordance with North Carolina General Statute, we posted a public notice of a rezoning request on the property, as well as mailed the notice to the adjoining landowners. Our chairman is here tonight. The planning board met on January the 8th and provided the following recommendation that is in your package. The Northampton County Planning Board voted the following: an unfavorable recommendation to amend the zoning classification from agriculture residential to highway business. While the planning board recognizes the need and the potential benefits for the proposed use of the property, which would include an adult day program, the premise of spot zoning, as well as possible circumstances arising from the transition, does not align with the Northampton County Comprehensive Plan. And furthermore, it establishes a spot zoning precedence which could impact future land uses. We are still required by general statute to bring this rezoning request to the Board of Commissioners to consider whether or not to approve or deny the rezoning request. Any questions before we open up the floor for public comments?
Could you maybe explain, explain spot zoning if anyone doesn't understand that?
Can I defer to you on that, Scott? No. So in layman's terms, spot zoning is when, if you look at a cluster of parcels, if they're zoned similar, as in agriculture residential, spot zoning means you designate or pick out, for lack of a better term, cherry pick one property to be rezoned to another use. That then has implications on the surrounding properties. In accordance with the School of Government's guidance, spot zoning is permissible in certain situations, typically frowned upon, but in this instance here, the planning board did not find any reasons to allow spot zoning. So
Because
ultimately,
it can set
cherry
a
picking.
precedent then that, everybody all over the county wants you to spot zone then.
Correct.
In their area.
So if you're in a residential area that has 15 homes and you want to choose one lot to allow an industrial manufacturing company that is typically spot zone.
Right. Okay. Anyone have any other questions before I open it up to public comment?
This is for an adult daycare, correct?
That is correct.
Not actually? Okay, so we're,
I didn't hear you.
so is this for an adult daycare?
That is the proposed use that we received from the applicant.
That's what we received in the application package. And so,
Right. Any other questions?
Will we have time for comments later on after the?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was one of my, like I said, just not necessarily a question, but just the precedence that it was set with the spot zoning, and looking at this particular, application that came in and thinking about the citizens and their residences and what they could potentially bring in the future, knowing the intent of what this application is, but if we set a precedence, then that certainly opens up the doorway or a pathway for other businesses or whatever the case is to be able to set up in that area. But I'll save my remaining comments for after the.
And if you look in your package, you'll see the letter from the applicant that gives an overview of what the services are.
Right, yeah.
at the facility.
thank you.
Thank you.
In the current zoning classification, the use is not permitted. Further questions? If not, I'll open it up for public comments.
My name is Albert Van. I'm the chairman of the planning board. It came before the planning board. It's 1.73 acres. And everything around it, across the road and the side roads, and it's residential, agricultural. And planning board thought, and we voted on it, that we will bring it before you guys. But if you change this 1.73 acres, it's a church on it. She wants to have a church on Sunday, maybe Wednesday, and then the Asian people the other times. But if you change that 173 to a highway business, then you got all these other people, houses not too far apart, and somebody, one of the houses gets in the hands of another person, and people pass away and the family sells the homes and stuff. If they would want to come before us and want to take this house and make a vaping joint or something other, they were not desirable to a residential thing, then you spotted this one, why not spot me? And that's what you're gonna run into. So, and it's residential on this side of the road, on this side of the road, and so forth, and the houses are pretty close together. So that's the reason we turned it down and sent it up to you guys. Thank you.
First of all, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Tanya Queen Melendez. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I have provided since '07, which is 18 years, mental health therapy for all ages, basically ages 3 all the way up through adulthood. I didn't know anything about spot zoning or even the zoning that was requested. That is the zoning that Mr. Bennett told me to request. This has kind of been going on, trying to go through the channels since last April when we bought the property. I won't go into all the ups and downs of it because that's really not important. What is important, I think, is what the pastor, the reverend, said. I thought I was bringing mental health, another component to the county, because I own that property which is the former New Community Church, and it has classrooms and a big fellowship hall. I thought that perhaps that would be a good setting to be able to provide this mental health. The zoning laws that they sent me indicate that I could put a school there, I could put a daycare there, I could even ultimately put a convention center there if I gathered additional acreage around the church. So, but there seemed to be no provision for an adult mental health program that's called psychosocial rehabilitative services. I'm contracted with Trillium. I have been providing mental health in Bertie County and also in Hereford County. I'm not a novice. I do what I do very, very well. I have a very well-trained staff. I didn't come here to just fight to get this here. If it's not wanted, I've already been contracted in Washington County and also Pitt County. We wanted to bring it here. We want to be partners. That's it. We weren't going after spot zoning because the way it's been explained, I definitely understand. I even asked several months ago, I've spoken to the county manager, I've spoken to Mr. Bennett, spoken with Nikki Sharon several months ago. Can you suggest a property that's already zoned? I think it would even be better for the church not to have a change in zoning. But I've met with a lot of resistance and lack of responsiveness. And I don't want to push it. I don't want to fight. If it's not needed, I'm hearing you say it's needed, but if it's not needed, it's fine. That's all I wanted to say. If you have any questions, I'm open to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
I'm a resident of Northampton County, and my family owns property, 52 acres, adjacent to the requested rezoning property. I received an attempt to be served of this notice on March the 8th. I went to the county Economic Development Zoning Office on Monday, March the 10th, to see what this was all about. It was my first time hearing about it. So when I went there on March the 10th, I was told by Miss Nikki Sharon that there was an organization requesting for the current agricultural residential property to be rezoned as highway business. I'm new to all of this. I want to protect my family's property that has been in my family for years. My father purchased this in 1940s. My family lives there. I have two sisters that live right adjacent to the church. So I'm very concerned about this. So when I talked to Nikki, I didn't know anything about it, what the purpose of it was for. And I'm not sure she was giving me the information that was given to her. And her response to me was, I think someone is trying to have it rezoned to put a business there for challenged people. Challenge can mean a lot of different things. Challenge is an outdated term that we do not want to use with anyone. Instead of using the words challenge, we could say someone with a disabled person, whether intellectual disabled or physical disabled. I agree that mental health services are needed in our county. I see it every single day. So when I got to looking at this and seeing, okay, let's see about the rezoning. My question is, who has been noticed and served about this notice of rezoning. No, I haven't been served. I was attempted to serve because I don't accept anything from the mail, from the postmaster certified that I know I don't have any concern about at that time. I don't have no knowledge of, I should say. Now, what I hear tonight is that in your packets, it says that this request has been asked for, to rezone for dual purposes, religious and adult daycare. Well, I'm not against that at all, but I say not for my community. It's still my community. I reside in Jackson, but Rich Square, Pennis Church area is my home. That's where I was born, and that's where I was raised up, right there. I still have two sisters there. I have a family community still there. So when I look at it, I went to the tax office then because I believe in trying to do my homework and trying to be educated as much as I can about what's going on. So I went to the tax office and I asked questions. What does this mean if it is rezoned to highway business for the property in that area? And I was told that per statute, you can't change what my tax rate would be, how my taxes would change up or down, decrease, increase, because the tax reevaluation won't occur again until 2031. My concern is someone owns this property right now. But let's say 3 years from now, they decide they want to sell it. It has already been rezoned to highway business. But 3 years from now, they want to sell it to someone else. It gets into their hands. Do they bring a vape shop? Do they bring a casino there? They can put whatever they want to put there. And in this community, if you will look around, we have the Robins that are right down Pennis Church Road. We have Venus Michelle Spoor right down Pennis Church Road. We have the Lassiters. We have the Phillips. Right across, I'm not saying adjacent, but right across, we have the Fleetwoods. We have Miss Geneva Key's home there. We have Miss Shirley Curry house there. Bill and Lucy Jacobs' house there. There are so many communities that can be impacted. Thank you so much to the Planning and Zoning Board. And I'm just saying to you, and I'm asking you to please deny this proposed zoning request from agricultural residential to highway business. Because if you go out there and look, it's nothing but residential and agriculture right now. It has been that way for 50 plus years. And I'm asking you to please let it stay that way. The young lady was saying, you know, wanted to bring a mental health facility here. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but when we go out on Highway 305, we had a mental health facility after you pass by where the J.W. Facing Center at, right before you get to the Wellness Center. I don't think there's anything there, and that's what they used to serve, mental health patients right there. Now we have a mobile unit that comes at DSS weekly, a mobile unit that just comes out there where people can't even see that it's out there unless you go out that way. Instead of it being right here in town where people will know that that unit is out there. I'm very familiar with Trillium. They provide great services to our citizens that need it. So I'm here tonight, along with other residents of that Pennis Church community, to ask, please do not rezone it as highway business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Geneva Riddick Faulkner. I live at 4998 US Highway 258. My concern is, although my property is not to the left or to the right, I'm directly across from it. My grandparents owned all of that land on the corner all the way back to Miss Gwen Bowser's house. They've just sold it off and partitioned it off, but my grandparents' house is in the front of mine and my house is back there. I never received a notice. So if something is changed to a different purpose or a different zoning, it impacts the people who can walk. I walked across the street to that church. My grandparents bought the property in the 60s. My grandfather used to go over and light the heater, the wood stove heater for the church every morning before their church service. Before it was bricked in and all the add-ons, I was going to church out there. My home church had church on certain Sundays. Any other time when that door was open, I was in there. So I know that property very well. I was not noticed that a change was happening. I'm thankful that the notice was shared with me by another citizen so that I could be here tonight to share that my community, where I grew up, where I live, is not a place where we want to have a business operating. And as she mentioned, it can turn into a casino. It could turn into whatever. That's not Penner's Church, Lover's Lane, 258. That's not what we are. And I would just ask that the commissioners respect the citizens and their wishes that live in that community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Moore.
Good evening.
And I live on the opposite side, on Lover's Lane Road. And I've been down there all my life. I got 3 houses down there. And we don't have no criminal past or nothing in that community. This is a senior citizen community, mostly retired elderly people. We rezoned this to a business. Just like they say, you don't know what's coming up in there. Our houses go start getting broken in. People start shooting. We don't have none of that now. We just a peaceful, look it out for each and every one of us. Most of us is family. Everybody look out for one another. We got a lot of elder women that stay by themselves. Their husbands is deceased. I go around in the neighborhood to check on different peoples in the neighborhood. And I just recently retired, 47 years at Newport News. So I don't like to see that coming. I mean, we've been there all our life, been farming, ever since I was a little boy, been a farmland all around. And I think if they want a place for a mental health place, they should have started in West Square Town where the business district is at. And it was some vacant buildings there, but now they've been sold. But it still is one proposition I could put out there for them, if they want to do that. It's right there, the old Malcraft building. That's a big place, and that guy, he want to lease some spots. So they need to get in touch with him. And that's my only concern. And I hope y'all understand what we're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. On behalf of the citizens down at Penner's Church, we would like to ask you to please consider denying that request.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens that would like to comment?
The gentleman that spoke, we need to get his name.
Sir, that spoke just a minute ago, what was your name again? With the
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Andrew Moore. Okay. Okay, if there's no other people wishing to speak, we will take this matter. Yeah, we close the public hearing, go back into regular session to discuss and vote on this matter. What are the wishes of the board?
I mean, just continuing with the comments that I had shared earlier, a lot of the families and the names that were shared, I'm very familiar with. They're dear friends of mine, grandmother, Mary Sue Garrison, late Mary Sue Garrison. So as you guys shared those things, I'm very familiar with that community. Anybody that has, grown up in Red Square, like I said, still committed to Red Square, commute back and forth every day. And communities matter. You don't want to just open up certain decisions and precedents. I think the cause and what your purpose is, I think it's an awesome thing. I just think the location needs to be somewhere else. We have to have an open ear to the citizens, and that's one of the things I take pride in, is having an open ear, listening to what their concerns are, because their home is my home. I would feel the same way if it was in my community, and that's something that, my mom and I, we talk about all the time. We had some deforestation that took place right next to our home that we're still recovering from. So decisions make an impact, but I definitely know that there's a need for mental health and for those services, but just a different location. I appreciate the citizens sharing your concerns and allowing your voice to be heard, because we appreciate that, and we want to make sure that we take all of those points into consideration. But definitely, my stance is that for Keisha Whitaker, is that that we would not go forth with changing the zoning of that area and that community, just because of the precedence that it could set. Also, when you think about property and things being sold, and that's not out of the norm in rural communities. If it gets into the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic for that community. So those are my comments on that.
And I agree with Kedra. I live in a small town, agricultural community, and I would definitely not want something to come in to disturb. I live in Pendleton, big city of Pendleton, so I would not want something like that to happen in my community. So I agree with Kedra.
I totally agree with my fellow commissioners and the requests from the Planning and Zoning Board. And when you're looking, I thank the citizens for coming forth. And I serve on the Trillium Health Board, Dr. Melendez, and I think that we can come together and find an alternative. Versus disrupting the community. So,
Yep.
I move that we deny.
Okay. Do we have a
Second. Thank you.
Were you gonna do it? Yes,
All right. All in favor of the motion to deny, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I, Barnax Taylor.
Aye. Motion to deny the rezoning is approved, so it will stay as it is.
Mr. Chairman, I do, Dr. Melendez, let's work together to find a different alternative.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do agree, we need some of those services.
And- Chairman.
Yes, I'll let you have real quick.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So it is a coalition that we need to form, because we are all concerned about the mental health access in our community. So I'll be talking.
Definitely agree.
So we all can
And so often our homeless, it ties back to mental health. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you. All right. County manager and board comments period.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. I don't have a whole lot for you on tonight. I just wanted to just bring information as far as the new hire is concerned. We've been without a code, excuse me, code enforcement directive since last year, so it's almost a whole year without a code enforcement director. So we have had an applicant that has agreed to come on. The starting date is going to be April 15th. Has years of experience in this field, so we're looking forward to having someone in that position to be a dedicated person. Also wanted to say to Derek, we really appreciate everything that you've done for the last year. So it's not been unnoticed. So we really appreciate you on that. And I also wanted to mention the budget calendar. We're gonna start, well, we're gonna have the goal is to have the budget presentation, the first meeting in April. That's gonna be April 7th. Right now, I'm just finishing up some of the budget reviews with department heads. The last couple of weeks, I've been meeting with the department heads. I got a few more meetings this week. We're gonna get that hashed out, and we should be able to meet these guidelines as far as the budget presentation and then the workshops afterwards. We have several workshops planned, April 21st, May 5th, May 19th. And then the public hearing is targeted for June 2nd before we get an adoption on June 16th. If all goes well, I believe all will go well. It's a very challenging budget year. I'm not going to say it's an easy budget year. You've heard some of the requests for funding, and I kind of wanted you all to hear that so you can see the numbers that I'm looking at, and not just look at the numbers. I wanted the folks to come in and present so you all would know what's being requested in advance. You're going to get it in your packet and see it again, but I like this type of presentation so you can get a flavor for what's coming. So it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be easy. There's things that we're going to have to answer for this budget season, but I'll get into all of that. I don't want to prolong this meeting, but we'll get into all of that in the next couple of weeks. And I'll be talking about the challenges, and not just this current year, but for the future of the county. And just wanted to say to everyone, thank you for coming out. We again appreciate your concern for this county, and we're going to do everything we can to be good stewards and continue to ensure that Northampton can be all that it can be. So thank you once again. Good night. Be safe.
All right, we'll have board comments. We'll start with Melvetta on my left.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for coming, but I need to let everybody know, and I'm glad this is being recorded, that on yesterday in Gaston, North Carolina, the Gaston senior citizens recognized me as a woman on the move. Also during that time, other outstanding women in this county were recognized. And I see some of those women that were recognized on yesterday. Would you please stand at this time? Ms. Vincent, stand up. Well, there you go. I'd like to thank the Gaston senior citizens for recognizing me. And it felt good to be celebrated as opposed to being tolerated. So I had a good time with y'all yesterday. Want you to know that Jackson is on the move. We went to the opening of the new coffee house. They got a new bakery. The embassy is coming back, so they're on the move. Want you to know about the 100-year celebration of the health department on Wednesday, March the 26th. Also want you to know about business after hours on March 27th. That's through the Chamber of Commerce. Also want you to know about the Northampton County High School groundbreaking, which is on 11 a.m. I don't know my date for that. Hold on, I had to come let you know after the meeting on the 28th. And then we're going to have the ribbon cutting here on, what date is that, on April 1st. April 1st. So we got a lot of great things going on in Northampton County. Tomorrow I will leave to go to the North Carolina Opioid Overdose Summit, and that has to do with the opioid money that we have received in our county. And I will be there with other people to see what they're doing with their money. And I want, I'm going to talk about what we're doing with our money. So You all keep me in prayer, and thank y'all for being here.
Just want to thank all the citizens for coming out and also our staff that's here as well. Again, like I said, it's very important that you guys share your thoughts with us so we can take those things into consideration. Super excited to see our citizens that are here from District 2, from I know Seabridge Square Township as well as Woodland. Definitely looking forward, Reverend Boyce, to some partnerships. So super excited about that expertise and some of the things that we can do to partner together, because that's truly how our communities grow. I'm not a real big social media person, but I am really big on directing citizens back to our web pages, back to our websites to get information out, and also being present. The thing about me, I attend various community meetings as much as my schedule allows. The only time it gets a little tight for me is like on the second and fourth Tuesdays due to work obligations, but other than that, I try my best to make different community meetings and events because I feel like it's important to be accessible to citizens. And even with the issue on tonight, I already had a pulse on how citizens were feeling because I see them on a day-to-day basis, and I think it's very important to be embedded in your community, not just say that, but to actually be present and accessible to citizens. And so just want to commend, again, citizens for coming out, your participation, our staff, and as we can continue to communicate, and as I say, we will be as transparent as we possibly can, certain things that we can't share, but everything that we can share, we're definitely going to do that. So again, that's my comments for tonight, Chair Martin.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I do appreciate the transparency from our county. They're looking for information. All of us up here are getting phone calls, and I appreciate it because we get the opportunity to hear what our citizens need, and that's what we're here for. So don't stop the phone calls. If it's not in my district, you can call me anyway. I'll get to the right person. I'll get you to the people who can get us some answers. And I appreciate everybody that comes out because you can tell, I can tell we have concerned citizens, and that's what we up here are here to listen and try to do the best we can, and that's all we can do. And just give us your comments, and we'll try to get you answers as soon as possible. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Vice Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. And just there's a lot going on, as Commissioner Barnack-Seller was stating, and love to be a part of these things. I'm invited, got a tight work schedule, but, and I appreciate the Northampton First Citizens for inviting me last week and informed that they meet on the second Tuesday. So I would definitely try to get there. So that I can understand and hear the concerns. And had a great meeting on 3/11 with the Lake Gaston Weed Council. When you look at where we are in Northampton County, Lake Gaston is a viable component of Northampton County as it attracts a lot of tourism. And one of the things that they're faced with is Labinia and other weeds that are up there on the lake. So thank you all to citizens that came out for the Lake Gaston Weed Council Summit, and we look forward to working with you all. Also, serving on the Trillium Health Board. Tonight, we heard about the needs of mental health care. And to my fellow citizens, mental health care is real in Northampton County. And I want you to understand that, and I can't speak on it enough. Been serving on that board for 6 years, and the things that I see, so when a person is in a state of dire need, the sheriff department may come to the rescue, but mental health is a real need. And I've been fighting that fight for 6 years. Bobby Lowe is a good director, and she sends out a lot of things to help the citizens in Northampton as well as the other counties that Trillium serves. The Monarch bus comes to Northampton County and Jackson and other locations weekly. And Northampton is one of the #1 seers in the county, so Northampton mental health is real. And we have a lot of issues in Northampton. Healthcare, been saying it for 6 years. So when we come together, when you talk about healthcare, when you have to go to the doctor, where do you go? You go to other places. You go to other places. When you need the component of seeing a doctor after 5 o'clock, you have to go to urgent cares in either Hertford County or Halifax. Another piece we've been fighting for 6 years. and we haven't got the answer yet. So when you talk about Northampton County, it's a lot of need to our citizens, but we're here to help in any capacity that we can. Been talking about the Wildwood Doctor's Office that's been closed for over a decade. No doctor in Northampton County to take care of the health care. And I give my hats off to all the EMS workers because they do a diligent job. My hats off to the health department. They do a yeoman's job, but they need assistance because we sit right here at this meeting and hear that there are 4 nurses down at the health department. A lot of need in Northampton County when you break it down to our needs. And I want to say, going back to doing town hall meetings, did town hall meetings at Lake Gaston, been talking with Mayor James in Gaston, going to talk to Mayor Bell in Garysburg. The 5th District has been doing town hall meetings since I came on board. We've only been to Lake Gaston because, again, having the meetings at the Lake Gaston Community Center. And I stress these town hall meetings because that's when we can converse. Because when you come before the podium here, it's citizen comments, but there's no conversing. And so we want to have these town hall meetings so we can have a conversation. And we'll bring the team so that we can converse and you can get the answers. That's my comments, Mr. Chair, and I look forward to having these town hall meetings in Garysburg, Gaston, and Lake Gaston. Want to schedule the first one again at another one at Lake Gaston on April the 23rd. And I'll be working with Mayor Bell and also Mayor James on scheduling something in Gaston. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and we do appreciate your comments, and we do our best to address the issues of this county. Can't always do everything because we are a poor county, but we do listen, we do hear you, and we're going to do what we can. And thank y'all for coming tonight. Now, do we need, is it EDC? Okay. Can you read?
Oh, yes. Mr. Chair, I move that we go into closed session on General Statute 143-318.11A4 for EDC report, and also General Statute 143-318.11A3 on attorney-client privilege matters.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, Broadnax Taylor.
Aye. Motion is carried. We'll go into closed session. Thank y'all for coming.